Anytime, sir.
Ready to go?
7 o'clock, yeah.
No, 6:59. It's 6:59. I go by this clock. Countdown begins. And here we go. Welcome, everybody. It is to our public hearing on March 21st. As we have quorum, I would like to call this public meeting to order. The time is 7 p.m. First, I'd like to acknowledge that the city of Maple Ridge carries out its business on the traditional and unceded territory of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. I will pass it over to Mr. Corporate Officer.
Thank you, sir. This public hearing is being held pursuant to sections 464 and 465 of the Local Government Act. Public hearing is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for playback on the city website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. The purpose of public hearing is to allow all persons who believe their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw a reasonable opportunity to be heard or present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that is subject of the hearing. Council's role in a public hearing is to listen. This is not a forum for debate or comment by council, nor gestures or remarks of support or opposition from council. All persons who believe their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be asked to provide their name and city of residence for the corporate record, beginning their remarks to council. And please note that comments can only be accepted regarding bylaws that are subject of this public hearing. If there's an issue with providing your address, come see the corporate officer after so that we can have it on the record. If you are participating electronically, please register as a speaker by raising your hand and turn on your camera before speaking.
Thank you very much. We will move to business. Oh, no, we won't.
Well, we have our first item, sir.
Yeah, no meeting agenda. Yeah, didn't think so. Okay, item 2.1.
Yes, sir. The first item on tonight's agenda is application 2020-051RZ, and Mr. McMullen is going to be doing the presentation. And this is to permit the rezoning of the subject property located at 11980 Glenhurst Street from RS3 to R1, and to allow the future construction of a 2-lot subdivision.
Thank you very much. Go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship and Council. The first application here is designated urban residential in the OCP. The existing zoning is RS3 single detached rural residential is proposed to be rezoned to R1 single detached low density urban residential on a site that is about 1/4 of an acre for proposed 2 lots. This is subject property located at Glenhurst at the intersection of Glenhurst and Dooney Trunk Road. This is subject property on the official community plan land use map, showing it designated as urban residential. This is the subject property on the ortho photo, just showing it and the air photo from 2020 of the surrounding neighborhood. As noted, this application is a rezone the subject property from R1 single detached low density urban residential to permit a 2-lot subdivision. The current OCP designation, urban residential, supports this rezoning and development. The minimum lot size in the R1 zone is 370 meters. The proposed lots are 516 meters and 499 square meters approximately. This is a proposed subdivision plan showing the lots aligned to Glenhurst, the side local street. And the terms and conditions. This bylaw was given second reading as amended on February 28, 2023, and forward to this public hearing tonight. And the following terms and conditions need to be met prior to final reading, so that should the application receive third reading at the next council meeting. First is rezoning, registration of a rezoning servicing agreement as a restrictive covenant, road dedication for widening of Glenhurst, road dedication for widening of Dooney Trunk Road, restricted covenant for the geotech report that is on title, and a restricted covenant for stormwater management and removal of existing buildings. And just confirmation that there is no underground fuel storage tank from a professional engineer, and if so, that'd be a stage one site investigation report required. And in keeping with the council policy on many contributions, this application would be subject to a $7,100 community many contribution charge for the additional lot. Your Worship and Council.
Thank you, Mr. McMullen. At this point, we'll open it up for questions from the audience for our first round. Is there anybody in council chambers or online who would like to speak to this issue? Nobody's online. Seeing how there's no questions, I will open it up for a second round. And seeing as how there's no questions from the audience, I will open up to a third and final round. And seeing as how there is no questions from the audience, I will ask the corporate officer to talk about any correspondence.
Thank you, sir. 22 notices were mailed out and 0 pieces of correspondence were received back. And this matter has been advertised in the local newspaper on March 10th and March 17th.
Thank you very much. We will then move on to item 2.2.
Thank you, sir. The subject of this application is to permit the rezoning of the subject property at 11892, 11886, and 11902 32nd Street from RS1 to RM1, and to allow the future construction of a 47-unit townhouse complex. And Mr. McMullen is going to be doing this presentation as well.
Go ahead, Mr. McMullen.
The site is designated urban residential in the OCP. The proposed zoning or existing zoning is RS1 single detached. To go back.
Apologies, Mr. McMullen. I believe that we're on the wrong slide deck here.
This is the right site here.
Yes.
It's also designated urban residential. It's currently RS1 single detached residential, proposed to be rezoned to RM1 low density townhouse residential. The site is 2.1 acres, approximately an area of 47 townhouse units are proposed. This is a subject site located on 232nd Street. It's the site with the urban residential designation on the site and all around. And this is the orthophoto showing the site with townhouse developments with similar R1 zoning to the south and to the north, and single family development to the east and west. It's noted this proposal is to rezone the property RM1 low density townhouse residential to permit future construction of a 47-unit townhouse complex. The current OCP designation, urban residential, supports this townhouse development as it's on a major corridor in the OCP, along with it being urban residential designated. There are outdoor amenities on the north and west side of the site to allow for retention of 2 mature trees and also a central amenity area on the project. The base density in the bylaw of RM1 zone is 0.6 FSR and can be increased in the zone to 0.75 FSR, which would require cash contribution, a density bonus contribution for approximately $435,311, which this application is seeking to utilize. There are 107 parking spaces provided. That's 2 spaces per unit, and 13 visitor spaces, which is 3 spaces over the minimum 10 required in this parking bylaw. There'd also be a development permit, variance permit required along with the development permit should this application proceed past third reading. The reductions at this preliminary stage are proposed to reduce the front west setback from 6 meters to 4.5 meters, the rear setback from 7.5 meters to 5.5 meters, and the north setback from 7.5 meters to 5.5 meters, and 3.5 meters specifically for a portion of Block 4. The reduction of the south interior side setback is proposed to be 7.5 to 5.5 meters. And these would be a subject to a separate report on to council on the development permit, development variance permit, again, if this were to proceed past third reading. This is a site plan showing a layout with the main access off 232nd Street, the central amenity area, and then the previously mentioned amenity area on 232nd Street and on the north side of the site. This is a sample of the elevations that are typical of the project. This is block 1 that's on the facing 232nd Street, just to the left of the front entrance. So you see the first elevation is showing the interior drive aisle elevation with the double garages, and then side elevations. The one that has more windows is facing towards the driveway. The other one is facing towards the other amenity area. And here's the other elevation facing the street in the lower left corner. These are sections of the project. typical. Most of the buildings are very similar style. And this is a perspective showing the project from 232nd Street with that block 1 in the center of the rendering and then the other blocks in the background. This zoning amending bylaw was given second reading as amended on February 28th and forward to this public hearing. And these current terms and conditions that would be applicable for proceeding would be registration of rezoning service agreement as a restrictive covenant and the deposit of the necessary security. As with all servicing agreements, road education on 232nd is required, consolidation of the subject properties, registration of a geotechnical report covenant, which addresses the suitability of the land, registration of a stormwater management covenant, removal of existing buildings, and confirmation that there's no underground fuel storage tanks. And if there were any found, a site one investigation would be required to ensure the property is not contaminated. There'd be a voluntary contribution in the amount of $267,900 for the 47 units, in keeping with the community amenity contributions policy of council, and a density bonus contribution for the increase from 0.6 FSR to 0.75 FSR that's provided in the zoning, which would be $435,311. Your worship and council.
Thank you, Mr. McMullen. To the corporate officer, have we received any correspondence?
Yes, sir. We've we've sent out 102 notices and we've received 0 pieces of correspondence, and the notices were posted in the March 10th and March 17th newspapers.
Thank you very much. I will now open it up for to the council chamber audience and any folks online for the first round of questions. Is there anybody in chambers who would like to speak? Seeing none, I will go for a second round and open it up to see if anybody has any questions or comments. Seeing none. And finally, a third round. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we will close that off. And that brings us to the end of our business for today. We are adjourned.